So, yeah, other people might show up, they might not. That's okay. You never know. Sometimes there's three or four, sometimes there's one, sometimes there's two. It varies.
Mm-hmm.
But your mind's been okay lately though, your mind?
Hilarious. It's been better. Like I've been manic for a bit this week, but
Oh,
I feel like I've been cracking some codes, like elevating, um vibrating at a higher frequency, so to say.
mm.
I was depressed for a while, uh, and now I'm on the other end of the spectrum.
Oh, now you're happy?
I'm just now I'm like I've been frustrated. Well, today I've been all over the place, and I'm trying to cultivate my vibration because I know, like, as far as if you're wanting to call into fruition or like manifesting, like being able to do that from like a higher vibration from love and gratitude, and that's what I'm wanting to cultivate. And like I've been doing like yoga,
Hmm,
dancing.
nice.
Yeah, I dance a lot
That's great.
to, yeah, move lymph and, yeah, feel good and raise my vibrations, so to say.
Yeah, the vibration never stays where we want it to.
Mm,
That's
mm,
the thing. Yeah, we can feel pretty good sometimes, even like orgasmically elated,
mm.
and have rainbows shooting out of our eyes, but it doesn't last.
Yeah, that's how I was
Yeah.
feeling yesterday. That was like, it was amazing. Yeah. Mm,
And then when it doesn't last, usually we just want it back,
mm-hmm.
and it can be extreme or it can be usually most of the time very subtle,
Yeah.
very subtle, usually going unnoticed. Things that we want that we just don't have or can't control. And that's the nature of uh, dissatisfaction, really. All dissatisfaction comes from we either want something that we can't have or want to control something
Mm,
that we can't control, want things to be a certain way that ththey're not. And Ajahn Chah used to say, this famous Buddhist monk, he used to say, you could spend your whole life wanting a duck to become a chicken and wishing for a chicken to become a duck, but you're just going to spend your life banging your head against a wall because that's not
mm,
the nature of reality. A chicken is a chicken and ducks are ducks. You could want them to be different all day long, but good luck with that. You know what I mean?
mhm,
And that kind of highlights where a lot of our dissatisfaction comes from, is from wanting these things to be certain ways that they're not,
mhm,
wanting relationships to be certain ways that they're not.
mm. Yeah.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm just dramatic.
Did you spill some coffee or something?
No, just the
No.
relationship aspect. Yeah, you're wanting a relationship to be a certain way and feeling like
Uh,
you push and pull of that.
yeah. And a lot of that stems from what they call in the Pali Canon, they call it sankharas, bad habits.
Mm,
And and a lot of these bad habits stem from when we're younger, when we're born. We're suckling on our mother's breasts, our strong father's protecting us, our mother's protecting us, and we're nurtured and we're loved and protected. And then something happens around the age of 7 or 8, and all of a sudden, this unconditional love
mm.
starts to become very conditional.
Wow.
They want us to take out the garbage, do our studies, finish our homework. Then we can have that nurturing love. But then we have to go to university, get a job, pay taxes, whatever, get good grades on tests, live up to certain societal expectations. And usually, what happens is people spend their whole life chasing that nurturing love that they had when they were born, um, and they work their ass off, and another strange occurrence happens around the age of 35, 40, when you worked your whole life and you look around and you say, where the fuck is this nurturing love that I was promised?
Wow.
It's not there, and people have what's called midlife crisis.
Wow. I didn't even think that attributed to that. I didn't think that.
Yeah, and then what happens in midlife crisis? We want to buy cars, have affairs, travel, change our whole life in some dramatic way because we realized working didn't do it. Material objects thus far haven't completed that that thing that we can't almost name that we want inside of us. And that's kind of the trick of it all, is like nothing in the outside world will ever fill that void. It's not possible. But what is possible is letting go of expectations, letting go of um, certain desires. And when we let go of those things, then true joy and happiness and peace, not worldly happiness, not like the happiness you get when you get a new car and you want that dopamine rush to last.
Mm,
But true happiness is in spite of what the mind is doing.
mm,
A lot of people think with spirituality and stuff, you can control the mind. And you can't. The mind is the mind. Like the bird flies in the sky, that's its nature. And the mind's nature is to go up, down, happy one moment, sad one moment, bored one moment, anxious the next, nervous the next, happy, joyful, and sad again, and down to hell we go. And that's what the Buddha was talking about when he was referring to birth and death and reincarnation. It's not so much metaphysics. It's not so much spirits and all these things. I'm not saying those things
mm.
don't exist or aren't important. But as far as the practice goes, it's a very simple practice of realizing that these thoughts, feelings, and emotions aren't entirely real. They have some realness to them, but they're not entirely real. It's just
Yeah.
what the mind does, it's the mind's nature. So instead of trying to control the mind when we get angry, what happens when we get angry, for example? What's the first thing we say? I'm angry, right? I'm angry, or I'm sad, or I feel like shit today. Things aren't going well for me. And one of the first things we can change, because when I'm talking to people, I like to use like real world shit they can do. Actions.
Yeah.
Not
Absolutely.
not bullshit, not shit that's gonna come in the future, but actions you can practice while these things happen.
Yeah.
And one thing you can control when you get angry is you can stop saying, I'm angry.
Mm,
You can feel angry all you want. This is just for example, it works with any thought, feeling, or emotion. But whatever you feel, you can say, oh, the body has this feeling. Start saying that outwardly. The body has this feeling. I don't have
mm,
this feeling. The
mm.
body has this feeling.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that instead of taking that on. Like you
yeah,
just mentioned that our thoughts have no meaning, or on the aspect that it brings about that we are not our thoughts. Oftentimes, that's so interesting. I like that.
yeah, yeah. And as those thoughts, feelings, and emotions arise that we don't like, we we can take refuge here and now in the breath. And while we're breathing, let's say I get angry, but I remember, oh yeah, I can't control this anger, right? There's nothing I could do. So I see, this is the practice. We get good at seeing, remembering to look at if we're angry, if we're happy, if we're sad throughout the day in a balanced way. And if anger's there, for example, with practice, you get really good at saying, oh, I identify. I'm suffering right now. I have dissatisfaction. Anger is there. My old habits would have said, I'm angry, I'm this. But now we can stop and say, outwardly with our mouth, right speech, we're not angry. It's the body that's angry, and that's okay. Yeah, the body feels very pissed off and angry. That's fine. So we come to the breath and we
Yeah.
breathe and relax here and now. And then the thoughts, feelings, and emotions pass. They don't last forever. And that's kind of the trick. Instead of trying to control the feelings as they come, we take refuge in the breathing. And as we're taking refuge in the breathing, naturally, as the Buddha taught, all of these things will pass. Thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Nobody's angry forever. You could take the most angriest man on the planet. He goes through ups and downs, and he may express his anger more than other people, but he follows that stuff, and it goes ups and down, and he's not going to stay angry forever. It might be a
Hmm.
couple minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops, but it comes back. And that's why breathing is so important. A lot of people
Yes.
misunderstand the breathing. Like, I have to keep practicing, I have to keep breathing until I reach some enlightenment that's going to have rainbows shooting out of my eyes. And that's not the case. We simply are breathing until the storm of the mind passes. That's the importance of breathing. Because in reality, there's nothing here now that's going to harm us. Everything's okay right now. And that's kind of what we do. It's kind of like a reminder practice. It's a practice of breathing and relaxing. And that's about it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Preach.
Yeah, it's just breathing and relaxing. One of my teachers used to say, all of Buddhism can, or all of spirituality rather, what we call the Dhamma. Have you ever heard of the Dhamma?
Uh, is that a to me? Is that like a type of principle?
The Dhamma in the
Or am I thinking of
West,
Dharma?
that's the same thing. It's
Okay.
just said a different way, and some people understand it differently. But from the Pali Canon in Thailand, that's one of the oldest historical documents of what the Buddha's followers wrote down about him. And so they pronounced it Dhamma, Dhamma, instead of Dharma, but it's the same thing. But it has
Okay.
two meanings. It means truth, and it means the teachings of the Buddha.
Okay.
But that's why a lot of Buddhists, if you get the good Buddhists, they say, I'm not a Buddhist. It's not about labeling myself. Who gives a shit? You could
Right.
be a Christian, you could be an atheist, you could worship Satan for all I care. I don't care. It's not about you. It's about being satisfied within myself, but not in a
Right.
selfish, egotistical way like, oh, it's all about me. No, but in a
Mhm.
compassionate, loving way that helps
Yeah.
everybody lessen their dissatisfaction. But the
Yes.
Dhamma simply means truth. You know? Just truth and just don't worry and be happy, and that's basically
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Me
and
too.
and
Mm.
everybody's enlightened already. We just don't realize it. The
Mm.
moment a thought is produced, we chase that thought and thereby go away from this peaceful surrounding nature that's happening right now as we speak.
Wow.
And like Dogen Zenji used to say, if we can't find peace right where we sit and right where we are, then where do we expect to find it?
Big bags.
Yeah, and we're not going to find it in some future land. And that's those sankharas, those bad habits I was talking about. And bad habits and kama, or what you probably heard as karma, isn't some person in the sky. And I'm not saying whether God does exist. I believe in God, but I'm not saying karma has nothing to do with that stuff. Karma is very real world. For example,
Tell me more.
are you sure?
Tell me more.
Karma is like just an action. And for example, if we get angry and we punch somebody in the face, there are real world consequences to that action we took out of that, born out of that anger. That is all that karma is. Karma is you do something negative in the physical realm, you will reap those benefits. And that's why the Buddha was about not causing harm, being compassionate and loving and kind to other people.
Yeah.
Because then when you do that, where does karma go? It fucking disappears. Because you're chilling, you have nothing to worry about. And ironically, you've heard of the word nirvana, right?
Yes.
It means like kind of enlightenment and stuff.
Mhm.
Do you know it's actually in the Pali Canon that the oldest usage of that word, where it comes from, is called nibbana? And actually, in Thailand, the people in the culture still use that word today, but not really for Buddhist stuff. They use it for food.
Wow.
And that's why the Buddha used it, because the word nibbana literally means, at its earliest translation, is taking food off of the fire and letting it nibbana, letting it chill out, literally,
Okay.
cool
Wow.
down.
Mm.
So when you hear people say, like, chill the fuck out, man, it's like, that's basically what the Buddha was saying.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not really magical and mystical insofar that it's some metaphysical spirits dancing and shit, but it's actually quite profound of its simplicity, of that it literally is chilling out, having fun, having good energy, not being negative, helping others, helping other beings, not producing negative karma. And why are we doing all this? What's the point of all this? For one point and one point only. The Buddha said, both formerly and now, I'm interested in one thing and one thing only: dukkha, dukkha nirodha, which translated means there is dissatisfaction and the cessation of dissatisfaction, the getting rid of dissatisfaction. That's all the Buddha taught, and that's what he said is the only thing. Any of the myriads of the ways and styles of the teachings you hear, that's the only thing it comes down to. And how do you do that? Through the Noble Eightfold Path, which is, when you break it down into its little parts, literally is just remembering to look. Am I dissatisfied? No, I'm satisfied. Oh, then there's no problems. There's no practice to be done. But in those moments throughout our day, if there is dissatisfaction, the practice of the Eightfold Path is to remember to look, catch that dissatisfaction as it arises, and change it. How do we
Yes.
change it? By coming back to the breath, coming back to wholesome thoughts, and remembering that everything's okay here and now until that storm of the mind passes.
Mm. Thank you. I needed to
Yeah,
hear that.
thank
Yeah,
you.
everything's interconnected. I definitely was feeling frustrated today. Like I needed to hear this
Yeah,
message for sure. And the breath
yeah,
is very breath is life for sure.
yeah.
Mhm.
And it's okay to feel dissatisfied. It's okay to experience dukkha, dissatisfaction. But
Mm.
when we do, we just simply remember, come back to the breath. Everything's okay. We remember that it's impermanent and it will pass. Just got to give it a little time, that's all. Because you're already enlightened. But when your mind chases that dissatisfaction, that's when we stop being enlightened, so to speak. And in truth, you can never stop being enlightened. But that's the trick of the mind. It tricks you into thinking. But it's got you chasing ghosts. It's got you chasing illusions, past and future. That's why they call Buddhism the middle way. It's not the past, it's not the future. It's right here, right now.
Mhm.
You always hear that, oh, the middle path, but people don't necessarily know what it means. But that's what it means. It means not in the past, not in the future, but finding satisfaction here, right with us, right now, in this little group call. Group call, two groups, members of or a group call with a member of one. Two people. Small group, but good group. Quality
Yeah.
over quantity. But yeah, that's basically it. It's not anything deep and philosophical to fathom that you even need to hear explained in different ways that will help you get it. But the one thing I can say is, with Sangha and spiritual groups, the important thing is this practice is so easy, so real world, so practical, so subtle that it loses us. It fades away fast. You would be surprised. I've been doing this for 25 years, and there's days where I completely forget my fucking